So, when I heard about The Amazing Spider-Man, I was kind of perturbed. Yes, Spider-Man 3 was bad. But that doesn't mean that there couldn't be a Spider-Man 4. Apparently Sony wanted to do that and even wanted Sam Raimi to do it, promising to not interfere as much this time. But when Raimi said he wouldn't be able to get it done by their deadline, they decided to restart from scratch. Seems kind of weird, right? I mean, there have been bad films and good franchises before. It doesn't mean you have to burn everything down. Whatever. The Amazing Spider-Man has a brand new cast with Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker, and retells the origin, which this time is a little different. Spider-Man gets his powers from spiders, but this time they're at Oscorp, and instead of being able to make his own webs, he makes mechanical web shooters like in the comics. The costume is different as well, and I actually like the change. It's rather unique and is a good blend of some of the different looks that he's gone through in the comics over the years. Too bad they didn't keep the same costume for the sequel. This also takes Spider-Man back to high school, which I think is an important choice. The comics had him as a student for many years, while the first movie had him graduating very shortly after gaining his powers. Also, there's no Osborns to be seen, though the presence is felt. The villain this time is the Lizard, who has an origin a lot like in the comics. He's a slightly nutty scientist who has one arm and is working on regeneration and turns himself into a giant lizard. Pretty simple. The interesting thing is that the Lizard in the comics is not usually a very smart villain. He's sort of a bestial presence that is just very strong and is sometimes controlled by other villains. And I think that doing this was an odd choice, but it works because it lets us focus on the Spider-Man character more. Remember what I said in the Spider-Man 3 review, how for a lot of people the villains are more interesting than the hero? It's a trend that I think started with the 1989 Batman film, where Jack Nicholson's Joker stole the show. This movie isn't a Lizard movie, it's a Spider-Man movie. It's also a lot of fun, well-directed, and actually has decent acting. And I always just sort of accepted Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, but honestly, after seeing Andrew Garfield play Spider-Man, I have a hard time taking Tobey Maguire seriously because Garfield nails it. Honestly, this is the Spider-Man movie that they should have made from the get-go. It's not perfect, but the plot holes that plague it are the kinds of things that you just kind of willingly suspend your disbelief because it's entertaining. Yes, it sometimes adheres a little too closely to comic book tropes, such as the villain leaving behind exactly the information that the hero needs, but the movie isn't trying to be The Dark Knight. That being said, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It's easily my favorite Spider-Man film, but it's just not quite a 10.